Why become a teacher? For me, it was actually pretty simple. When I was very young in high school, my high school teacher provided a program for us that really gave us a lot of energy. It gave us a sense of life purpose, and I really started realizing more and more that I wanted to do music in some way, shape, or form for the rest of my professional life. And I really saw the culture that my teacher set up, and I wanted to strive to create a similar culture. It was very simplistic, very basic in nature, but it is all that I needed to start an educational program that would lead me to a lot of the revelations that I have now as to why I want to become a teacher in California. When considering which school to attend for my credential, there were really only two options. My Cal State Fullerton, where I got my bachelor's, and Azusa Pacific. I chose Azusa Pacific for a variety of reasons, but the more basic ones were that it was really close to home. I live about a mile away. The other was the streamlined structure of the way the classes work, the quarter system. It was fast. I had a master's degree attached to it, which I liked. And the other was the Christian perspective. I wanted to know how God was going to be speaking to me and how God was going to use me as a teacher, and I felt the Christian's perspective on education was going to help me out with that. But really the main reason was that I felt like I needed to get a change of perspective on educational philosophy. I felt that I got everything I needed to get from Cal State Fullerton, and I was ready to see what a new environment had to offer, and therefore Azusa Pacific became my home for my graduate program. When considering the different ways that I experienced growth through the program, personal growth was one of the major factors. First, I was able to learn a lot about my specific learning style and the ways that I learned the best. The musical one, obviously, I knew was present. However, the interpersonal one, although seemingly obvious for myself, I found out a lot more about. I ended up learning about how it is that I can learn best. I learned how I work independently and think independently in an interpersonal way. Time management was also a big factor in my personal growth. I used to not manage time really well, and this allowed me to work better in a deadline type of environment since a lot of the classes are structured that way. Professional relationships that I built were also part of my personal growth. I used to be very independent and really secluded in the way that I learned, and the numerous collaborative environments that we utilized in class allowed me to interact with others and learn. Also, I learned how to focus on how teaching is ministry, and I learned how to do God's work through teaching. And also there were many personal achievements, one and the major one being that I was able to contribute to a culture of my family that expects high education, that has high educational goals for themselves, which wasn't something that was previously present due to my parents' limited education. My mom never attended public school. She grew up on a ranch, and my dad went as far as the 8th grade, which he repeated, I think, like 3 or 4 times. But anyway, I'm glad to have contributed to a more substantial educational value in my family. When thinking about my professional growth within the time that I was at Azusa Pacific University, I think it can best be characterized by an ability to learn the art of teaching and the art and the science of teaching. While Cal State Fullerton granted me mastery in the music content, Azusa Pacific taught me how to become an effective teacher. Specifically, gave me classroom vision. I have a vision for what my classroom looks like now, and a lot of that entails the technical growth that I gained throughout the digital teaching and learning program. I'm now pretty strategic about the way I use technology. Prior to coming in, I just thought it would teach me a lot of technical things about how to use technology, what different technologies there are. But I really enjoyed 522's theoretical approach of teaching you how to effectively use technology based on the identity of your students and the learning styles of your students. Additionally, EDUC 514 helped me out a lot too in learning how to produce videos, and it was really a skill that I wasn't very familiar with, and I really love it now. So I really appreciate the times that we get to produce videos in the classroom as we are now. all of my classes really offered a different skill set, but if I was to go by one and tell you what specifically I valued most from each class, it would sound a little bit like this. EDUC 512 allowed me to use practical and effective use of common software programs. There was a lot of things using Excel and Word that I didn't know, but more specifically, there was a lot of programs that I have on my Apple products, like Numbers, Pages, and GarageBand, and all that stuff that I didn't really quite know how to use, and now I know how to use more effectively. EDUC 514, I kind of touched on it a little bit, taught me the use of video production and how useful and valuable that can be in the classroom to expand the parameters of the classroom time, and really is one of the major parts of my vision. And EDUC 522 was probably the one that I valued the most, just because it allowed me to figure out how to use technology effectively, to never use it just for technology's sake. And lastly, EDUC 526, it kind of like wrapped everything up, it put everything together, put everything in perspective, and allowed me to realize how this is going to be used for my professional, not just my professional life, but also my spiritual and personal life as well. The Curricular Unit Plan project is a project that allowed me to really solidify my classroom vision for the future. The intention of the Curricular Unit Plan is to create a music curriculum that really embodies a full sense of fluency with music. A lot of music programs today, or music departments in schools, they really focus on teaching performance skills specific to one singular repertoire selection for one concert. And my aim is to really teach music fluency, teach music in a way that's going to allow students to take their fluency into multiple musical environments inside and outside of the classroom. And the way this is done is by utilizing a variation of multiple intelligence strategies to choose technology and to develop lesson plans that focus on outer musical content that falls out of performance. Things like history, things like theory, things like ear training. So many the theory behind every major minor scale, every chord, and so students can really understand the theory behind it, what it takes to perform music, and compositional intention for the more emotional component of listening and to performing music. The Action Research Project for me was also a really valuable experience. It allowed me to reflect about some of the realities about my current health state. I make quotation marks because I really don't contribute very much to it, at least as it stands right now. And really the premises of it was to develop sustainability in my ability to participate in an active and healthy lifestyle. The reality of the situation was that I don't have a problem starting to exercise and getting into a routine and really loving to exercise. That wasn't a problem for me. The problem was sustaining that over an extended period of time. In the past 5 years, I've gained and lost about 25 pounds or so, 25 to 30 pounds, and what ends up happening is that as soon as exercising gets in the way of like a school or something from church or something in my spiritual life, I usually abandon that. And the reason why is because I only viewed it for the limitations that it placed on the other aspects of my life, whether it was school, my professional life, or my spiritual life. So the premise behind this was to gain knowledge about the specific benefits to it, so I can really take a different perspective. I can get away from looking at it for the limitations and focusing on the values that it provides me, and that I feel like allowed me to gain a renewed sense of value for an active, healthy lifestyle, and it will eventually turn into what I'm hoping to be a lifelong plan of action for living healthy, and I that was just really valuable to me. This program has really allowed me to develop my whole sense of self in 3 different parts. My professional self, I was able to develop an identity as a teacher and develop a fluency with technology use, with effective technology use, I should say. My personal self, it allowed me to reflect more deeply about the more alarming tendencies in my life and to make adjustments accordingly. And my spiritual self, it brought in my understanding of ministerial work. I was able to bring Christ into my professional life and find what God wants me to do through my approach to teaching, and that was all really valuable. So thank you so much to anybody who really contributed, and my classmates, my peers, my professors. It's really been a great ride, and I can't wait to get to work.